Hi, I'm Tim Tyler, and this is a video about critics of the machine takeover. Robot experts seem fairly uniformly critical of the idea that machines are likely to take over the world. One of the few who takes this idea seriously is Hans Moravec, now one of the fathers of the field. In some respects, this is understandable. Robot takeover scenarios are likely to be unpopular with humans who've been exposed to Hollywood's depictions of warfare between humans and robots. So, robot builders naturally want to reassure people that these kinds of scenarios are unlikely, so to help ensure that they continue to receive funding and so that the robot industry does not fall into disrepute. I don't mean to pick on Rodney Brooks, since he's one of many, but here is his view of the topic.
And the second question is, will the machines want to take over? And here, the standard scenario is that we create these things, they grow, we nurture them, they learn a lot from us, and then they start to decide that we're pretty boring, slow. They want to take over from us, and for those of you who have teenagers, you know what that's like. But Hollywood extends it to the robots, and the question is, will someone accidentally build a robot that takes over from us? And that's sort of like this lone guy in the back garden. I accidentally built a 747. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think we're going to deliberately build robots that we're uncomfortable with. They're not going to have a super bad robot. Before that has come to be, a mildly bad robot, and before that a not so bad robot, and we're just not going to let it go that way. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. The robots are coming. We don't have too much to worry about. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoy the journey.
Rodney discusses what he calls the standard scenario in which the machines want to take over, which he apparently takes from Hollywood. Unfortunately, Hollywood scenarios are intended for dramatic purposes, not realism. He criticises two scenarios: the accidental construction of bad robots and the deliberate engineering of bad robots. However, these are not the only two possible scenarios, nor are they the most likely ones, as I go on to explain in a moment. Another critic is Daniel Wilson, author of humorous parodies of Hollywood robot portrayals. Daniel wrote this book, How to Survive a Robot Uprising, which basically makes fun of Hollywood's depictions of robots taking over the world. Daniel did also go on to write another book on the subject, How to Build a Robot Army, which is a bit more sinister. However, here's Daniel on the subject.
Sure. So, my name's Daniel, and I wrote this book called How to Survive a Robot Uprising. And really the title of the book says it all. So this is a book that gives advice to humans on how to survive when the robots inevitably come and try to kill us all. Now, if you haven't sort of caught on yet, the book's funny, yeah, and it says humor on the back, too. So that's usually the first thing I say during a talk. Book's funny. Okay. Unfortunately, since the book was published, I actually get lots of emails from people that sort of disagree. And it's really interesting to think about the real robot uprising, but I sort of have to say up front that, and this may be disappointing to you all, but I don't actually truly believe that a robot uprising is on the horizon for us, and I sort of say that from an informed standpoint. I have a little card that says my PhD is on it. I usually wave that at people. I'm working on getting a badge for it. But I'm going to say to the people that are worried about it, I don't know what to tell you except, just buy the damn book. So that's...
The idea that a robot takeover is unlikely seems to be standard fare in the robotics community. Unfortunately, the takeover criticisms they present seem rather misguided to me. I agree with the critics that an accidental robot uprising is unlikely. The scale of the mistake humans would have to make to lose control in that way is enormous. The issue with robots is they seem likely to ultimately be technologically more advanced than existing evolved organisms are, and yet they exist in the same ecosystem as them. Daniel makes the point that robots today are too feeble to be threatening.
So which robots most contributed to my feelings that robots are not going to be a huge danger to people? Pretty much that's every robot. I mean, very few robots actually do what they're supposed to do twice in a row. So That first time's real easy, and hopefully they'll give you your degree. Anyway, so I actually, every time I interviewed people and I would put them in this situation, there would be a little bit of decompression time where they kind of get into the mindset of, okay, what if robots really were dangerous? What would I do? And but at the beginning, roboticists would always say, oh, if I wanted to escape from my robot, why, I'd walk away slowly, or like, I'd go up one stair because the damn thing won't come up one stair.
However, the situation where robots are feeble is not going to last forever. Robot capabilities will eventually equal and then surpass those of humans. Advanced technology has always been used to concentrate wealth and to prevent the poor from reclaiming it. We saw the first millionaire in 1716, the first billionaire in 1916, and the first trillionaire is expected soon. Since there are still some people on the breadline, those figures represent enormous inequalities within society. When robots are well developed, running a company which is 99% robot is likely to be the best way to be profitable. However, if everyone does that, most of the available resources will be tied up in robots. Society will consist mostly of machines. Unrestrained economic competition seems likely to lead directly to robots doing all the work, and most humans being made redundant. Those in charge of robot armies responsible for the world's productivity are likely to be unimpressed by mountains of unemployed humans voting to tax them heavily. They'll seek out countries that allow them to operate without such constraints, or take other measures to free themselves from parasitism by the majority. A world of redundant humans who lead a parasitic existence on the rest of society appears likely to be rather unstable. The planet has always been resource limited. Malthusian competition for resources may well lead to conflict in the future as the planet gradually fills up. Whatever form the competition takes, the combatants are likely to be at the head of robot armies, which could be used if necessary. So, future conflicts involving robots seem at least possible. If you look at the situation from the point of view of the heritable information involved, then that wants to live inside computers. It is there that it's got the best chance of combining with other useful inventions and spreading rapidly. There's been an enormous migration of information into computers, including the genomes of many existing organisms, and I expect this to continue. In the future, artifacts will not only have the best transmission fidelity, the best recombination and beneficial mutation facilities, but also the best sensors, actuators, and processing elements. That is going to be where the action is taking place. Another machine takeover scenario could be a relatively peaceful one. In the future, there will be enormous pressure to ditch our crappy mortal bodies and adopt gleaming robot ones that can be replaced like a suit of clothing. Similarly, our minds will be under enormous pressure to migrate into a medium where they can be better backed up and debugged. Similarly, our genes will want to be able to utilise the best technology conveniently as well. In meme-dominated societies, people naturally reduce their breeding rates. If you look at Japan, people are currently dying faster than they're being born. Essentially, people have their bodies and brains hijacked by memes, which then use them for their own ends. So, it may not be necessary for people to be killed, or even for them to have their reproductive rate deliberately constrained. Humans might well die out naturally in a meme-rich world. Machine takeover critics seem to concentrate on near-future catastrophic disaster scenarios, and I agree those are not terribly realistic. However, they neglect longer-term scenarios where machines take over, not because they get into a battle with the humans, but rather because the humans love them so much and want more and more of them. These scenarios are a bit further into the future, but because of the exponential character of evolutionary progress, they are still not that far off. I think consideration of these scenarios effectively reverses the conclusion. How could so many robot experts be wrong about the significance of their own field? I think it is because they continuously face questions from people about Hollywood-inspired scenarios, and those are so wrong that they need correcting. Also, there is the concern that painting robot takeover scenarios as plausible would result in robots being less popular, and most robot builders want to promote robots. Asserting that they are likely to take over the planet might seem counterproductive to this cause. So, in my view, Hans Moravec is right about this issue, and most other robot enthusiasts seriously need to reconsider their position. Enjoy.